Chapter 7. The encyclical letter Libertas Praestantissimum of Leo XIII on human liberty and liberalism, June 2nd, 1888. The incompatibility of Masonry and Catholicism has been established, then, with the help of pontifical texts. It remains to treat of the ideas that govern the entire Masonic organization, and which can be called liberal ideas. These ideas are propagated throughout the world and are more or less accepted, even by Catholics. These are the errors that the popes have denounced for more than a century and a half. An erroneous mind. To understand the numerous pontifical documents condemning liberalism, one can refer to Liberalism and Catholicism by Father Roussel, available from Angelus Press, Kansas City, Missouri. It is an excellent resume of the errors and studies on liberalism that Father Roussel presented during a series of conferences given in 1926. He treats of liberalism in general, then he deals with liberal Catholics, and finally, he expounds all the errors of liberal Catholicism. He describes the liberal mentality very well, its falsified intellect always in contradiction with itself, that affirms one thing and its contrary, and which remains in a state of perpetual incoherence. From this, we can better understand the situation of the Church today, an unthinkable situation that pushes certain distraught members of the faithful to say that there is no pope, that there is no more valid sacraments, nor valid masses. This is an extreme radicalism that fails to grasp what liberalism is. One must make more prudent judgments, precisely because liberals are not absolutists. They are always between error and truth. They contradict themselves and are, so to speak, hard to nail down. Obviously, they destroy truth, dogma, and the faith, but they do not go so far as to accomplish absolutely invalid acts. They know their religion sufficiently well so as not to make statements that would raise an uproar against them. They manage to do things acceptable in principle, at least at the boundaries of orthodoxy and validity, although frankly bad in practice. For example, the rite of the Mass published by the printing presses of the Vatican is one thing. The actual Masses, the translations, and the particular innovations in the actual celebration are another. And it is these latter that permit one to state that often these masses are invalid. First part. What is liberty? The most important document of the magisterium on liberalism is the encyclical Libertas Praestantissimum of Pope Leo XIII. The first part gives a precise definition of liberty, for this is a widely misunderstood notion. Quote, "There are many who imagine that the Church is hostile to human liberty. Having a false and absurd notion as to what liberty is, either they pervert the very idea of freedom, or they extend it at their pleasure to many things in respect of which man cannot rightly be regarded as free." End quote. Why is this accusation of hostility made against the Church? Because the Church upholds the law, and it is the law that guides liberty, orients it by orienting the will. The people who demand total liberty, a liberty without limits, esteem that the Church, being in favor of the Decalogue and exact moral laws, is against human liberty, as if the law in and of itself went against liberty. They think that freedom is something absolute, and that once it is limited, it is no longer freedom. They imagine that liberty is a natural faculty that allows man to do whatever he likes. Hence the importance of knowing exactly how to define liberty, and why God gave it to us. Liberty is a relative notion, like obedience in fact. It is good in the measure that it seeks the good, and it is no longer liberty in the measure that it leads to evil. Liberty was not given to us for its own sake, but so that we could pursue the good in a way that is not predetermined. Psychological and moral liberty. Leo XIII begins by distinguishing between psychological or natural liberty, free will, and moral liberty, the good or bad use of free will. Quote, "It is with moral liberty, whether in individuals or in communities, that we proceed at once to deal. But, first of all, it will be well to speak briefly of natural liberty." End quote. The distinction is made between moral liberty, which concerns good and bad acts, and natural liberty, also called psychological liberty, which concerns free acts, acts accomplished without being determined by an internal cause. But as soon as one adds to an act the ideas of good or evil, human liberty must be oriented. Moral liberty cannot permit everything precisely because it weighs good and evil. It can only choose the good, because if it chose the evil, it would no longer be true liberty, but license. Liberty, the mark of intelligence. Leo XIII begins by describing the psychological or natural liberty, or free will of man. Quote, "The unanimous consent and judgment of men, which is the trusty voice of nature, recognizes this natural liberty in those only who are endowed with intelligence or reason." End quote. In fact, only spiritual beings endowed with a mind or reason are considered free, and not the animals who only obey instinct. Quote, "For while other animate creatures follow their senses, seeking good and avoiding evil only by instinct, man has reason to guide him in each and every act of his life. Reason sees that whatever things that are held to be good upon earth may exist or may not, and discerning that none of them are of necessity for us, it leaves the will free to choose what it pleases." End quote. That is the definition of psychological liberty. The Pope continues, quote, "As the Catholic Church declares in the strongest terms the simplicity, spirituality, and immortality of the soul, so with unequaled constancy and publicity she ever also asserts its freedom. These truths she has always taught, and has sustained them as a dogma of faith, and whensoever heretics or innovators have attacked the liberty of man, the Church has defended it and protected this noble possession from destruction. She defended human liberty. At no time and in no place has she held truce with fatalism." End quote. Unlike the Muslims who teach fatalism. Quote, "Liberty, then, as we have said, belongs only to those who have the gift of reason or intelligence. Considered as to its nature, it is the faculty of choosing means fitted for the end proposed. End quote. That is the exact definition of psychological liberty.